Okay, hello. Today's video is on relative formula mass. So we're going to start off with CaCl2. And the first thing I want us to look at is how many atoms of each element have we got. So how many Cas are there and how many Cls are there, and what are these numbers. Now we'll have looked at this a little bit before, but I just want to go through it again. So put pen. So Ca, if I just draw a little arrow down here, I can say that there's one. There's no numbers around it. Any number in front multiplies by the whole compound, and the numbers afterwards are just for that element in front of it. So Ca, you can say equals 1. Cl2, there's a little 2 there. There's nothing in front of the whole compound, so it must be Cl equals 2. So what I'm going to ask you to do is work out the number of atoms for each element in the following compounds. So I'll just get you started with the first one. I would draw an arrow. I'd write Fe equals and the number of atoms based on the numbers around it, and I'd also write O equals. Pause the video, have a go, and then I'll mark the answers with you. Okay, so you should have had a chance to have a go through this. So Fe is 2 because there's a little 2 after it. O is 3 because there's a little 3 after it. H has got a little 2, so H is going to equal 2, whereas O's not got a number after it and no number in front of the whole compound, so it would be O equals 1. It's not 0, it's 1. C equals 2 because there's a little 2 after it. H equals 6 because there's a little 6 after it. No number in front, remember. Question 4, there's no number in front of this compound, so it's just the numbers after each element. K is going to equal 2. Then we've got C equals 1 and O is going to equal 3. Now that's not cobalt, that's carbon and oxygen. And the reason we know that is because that's 2 capitals. So if you've written CO equals 3, just make sure you amend that to C equals 1 and O equals 3. Okay, question 5. No number in front, so we can say that magnesium itself is just 1. Now this is a little bit different because we've got some brackets. Now that bracket there, the OH2, means that any of the elements in the brackets is multiplied by 2. So we're going to have O equals 2 because it's multiplied by 2, and also the H equals 2 because it's multiplied by 2. Final one, no numbers in front, so C equals 2, H equals 5, O equals 1, and we've got another hydrogen here, so you could either write H equals 1, or you could add that up to make H equals 6. Doesn't matter which way around you've done that. But they are the same element. That hydrogen there is the same element as that hydrogen there. So the best option would be for you to have written H equals 6. Okay, so I said today's lesson's on relative formula mass. That will help us understanding what these little numbers are for, and understanding what big numbers are, if there are any. We've not got any examples today of big numbers, but we know what these little numbers are. That can help us when calculating relative formula mass. So you are going to need your periodic table for the next bit. It says here, relative formula mass is calculated using the massive number on the periodic table. So what I mean by that, if you have a look at your periodic table, each compound has 2 numbers. So if we've got carbon, that's 12 and 6. So when we are calculating relative formula mass, we use the massive number. So we use the bigger number, which in this case is 12. And that's for every element. So we're always looking, when we're looking at relative formula mass, we're always looking at the bigger number. So I'll show you an example. CaCl2, like we did earlier. I'm going to draw a little arrow down. Ca equals 40 because that's the big number from the periodic table, so you should be able to find that yourself. So I'm going to do, let me just rub it out. I would write 40, because that's what CA is, plus your CL times 2. So I would do 2 times 35.5. So if we add those together, 2 times 35.5 plus C40, you get an answer of 111 grams per mole. And there's nothing stopping you using a calculator. You will have a calculator in your exam, so don't worry about using calculators to calculate it. But that's the idea. So you work out, and we'll do another one together. So you've got Fe. The big number of Fe is 56. So I do 56 times 2 plus your 3 times oxygen, which is 16, because that's the big number from the periodic table. And if you multiply 56 by 2 and you add that to 3 lots of 16, you get an answer of 175. And the units of relative formula mass are grams per mole. So I'll just highlight that. That's what you need to always put your units as. So if you pause the video and then I'll mark, have a go at them, and then we'll go through and mark each of these, working out relative formula mass. So key things to remember: you're using the massive number, so you're using the big number in the periodic table. You have to multiply it by the number of atoms there are. So here we've multiplied by 2 for the 56. Here we've multiplied by 3 for the 16, and then give it in units of grams per mole. So pause the video, have a go, and we'll mark them. So you should now have had a chance to mark your answers. Sorry, not mark your answers. Completed the questions. I'm now going to mark the answers. So H is big number on the periodic table is 1. So you would do 1 times the 2, because there's 2 lots of it, plus oxygen's big number is 16 times 1, because there's only one of them. That gives you a total of 16 plus 2, which is 18, and then your units, grams per mole. Make sure you've got this. To be able to get a mark, you need to make sure you've got the units written there as well. Number 3, we've got 2 times the big number of C, which is 12, and you can find this information on your periodic table, remembering it's the massive number, plus 6 lots of big number of H, which is 1, like that. We get a total for question 3 as 30 grams per mole. Just carry on to question 4. K's big number is 39. Get that from the periodic table. It's the big number multiplied by 2, because there's 2 of them. Add it to the 1 carbon. So 1 times big number of carbon is 12. Remembering you get that from the periodic table. And finally the oxygen times 3. So plus 3 times the big number of oxygen. We've already done oxygen so far, is 16. If you add those all together, you can use a calculator if you want to. You get a total of 138 grams per mole. Magnesium hydroxide is this one. There's just one magnesium, so you would do 24 times 1 plus, I'm going to do this all as 2 separate brackets here, so I'm going to do the oxygen, which is times 2, so I'm going to do 2 times the big number of oxygen plus 2 times hydrogen number. Big number for hydrogen is 1, therefore your total of this one is going to be 58, and the units, don't forget the units, are grams per mole. final chance to get this right, so just mark in your answers in another colour pen if you've got one. Carbon, there's 2 here. Oh, sorry. Carbon, there's 2 here. Carbon, there is 2 here, so you would do 2 times the big number for carbon, which is 12, plus 5 times the big number for hydrogen, which is 1, plus 1 for your oxygen number, which is 16, and finally plus 1 times 1, which is 1. So I'll just put the 1 there because I don't have space to finish that one off. Okay, if you add that all up together, you get an answer of 46, and don't forget those units, grams per moles. So if you haven't followed there, you might want to pause the video and just make sure you've got all your answers correct. But that is how you calculate relative formula mass.